My name's Brandon and this is Cartoon Network Video Game History, a show where I take a look back on all of the video games based on Cartoon Network shows and retrospectively review them. Here we are in a post-Punch Time Explosion world. What is Cartoon Network going to serve up next? How about a kart racer based entirely on Ben 10? Ben 10 Galactic Racing was released on October 18, 2011 for the PlayStation 3, Nintendo Wii, Xbox 360, Nintendo 3DS, and Nintendo DS. That's a whole lot of consoles. It didn't stop there though, because it came to the PlayStation Vita once that launched on February 22, 2012. That makes this game the first Cartoon Network game to grace Sony's ill-fated handheld.
I can't understand why this thing is failing over there.
Thanks to a handy IGN article, I was actually able to find out that out of the loads of launch games for the Vita, this was the only one that doesn't have an official overall score on Metacritic. Sites couldn't even be bothered to review it despite it being a launch game. Ouch. Every version of this game was developed by Monkey Bar Games, except for the DS version. That was handled by Tantalus Media. We saw Monkey Bar Games pretty recently as they developed Ben 10 Alien Force. I thought that game was okay. It didn't knock my socks off, but it was a decent enough entry. However, if I was picking my ideal developer for this game, it definitely wouldn't be them. High Voltage Software and Papaya Studio would have been my first choices. Papaya in particular had racing game experience under their belt, so I would have felt most comfortable with them. I would have also suggested bringing back the developers for Cartoon Network Racing, but they seem to have moved on to NASCAR games. And they developed Ride to Hell Retribution, so maybe it's best that they didn't return. Of course, D3 are the publishers here. It wouldn't truly be a Ben 10 game without them. As I mentioned, the Vita version doesn't have an official score on Metacritic. However, the same applies to all 600 million other versions of the game. Of the reviews I could find, the 360 version got a 7 from Mondo Xbox, the PS3 version got a 6.5 from Gaming XP, and the Vita version got a 3.5 from PlayStation Lifestyle. I wasn't able to track down a review for any of the Wii, 3DS, and DS versions. It's incredibly hard to get a gauge on whether this game is any good or not based on that. I'm a glutton for kart races, just like I love crossover fighters, so whether it's good or not, I'm eager to dive into this. Ben 10 Galactic Racing is the third kart racer in Cartoon Network's history, but the first one to be based on one franchise. Cartoon Network Speedway and Cartoon Network Racing were both a celebration of all things Cartoon Network, while this is just focused on Ben 10. My first question is, why? Why go through all of the effort of developing a kart racer and then only theme it around Ben 10? I guess because of the fact that Ben has so many alien forms, you can get a lot of characters out of it, but it still seems silly to me. Why not just make a sequel to Cartoon Network Racing? You literally just released a crossover fighter, so why not follow suit with a kart racer? The Ben 10 series doesn't even lend itself to kart racing. Watching Vilgax race around a track in a tiny car is bizarre to watch. The fact that this game even exists is absurd. Initially, it seems like Monkey Bar Games were able to squeeze a lot out of Ben 10 into this racer. The game boasts 30 different karts, 15 different characters to play as, and 25 tracks to race on from 5 different planets set in the Ben 10 universe. When you examine those 25 tracks though, it starts to become clear that Ben 10 isn't strong enough to carry an entire game like this on its own. 25 tracks seems great, but the from 5 planets part is where they get you. In reality, it's more like there are 5 unique tracks, with the other 20 being small tweaks. The tracks set on the same planet are all ridiculously similar, to the point where it's almost impossible to tell them apart at times. Some tracks just straight up reuse long stretches of previous tracks you've already raced on. This is, on one hand, so fucking lazy, and on the other, a prime example of why this game was a bad idea from the start. If you can't even muster up a dozen truly unique tracks, just don't even bother making this game. Also, before I go on, I should point out that Gwen is not present anywhere in this game. What the fuck? How are you going to make a Ben 10 kart racer and not include one of the main characters? Genuinely dumb decision making here. This is like if Mario Kart released without Luigi. Monkey Bar Games doesn't skimp out on the gameplay modes here. There are 6 different ways to play. You have Galactic Grand Prix, Short Circuit, Single Race, Time Trials, Showdown, and Multiplayer. Galactic Grand Prix is your classic Grand Prix mode you'd find in Mario Kart, while Short Circuit allows you to do a 3-race Grand Prix with any tracks of your choosing. Single Race, Time Trials, and Multiplayer are all self-explanatory, but Showdown is where things get unique and a little bit interesting. Showdown features 3 different minigames that differ from just standard racing. Ultimate Alienation is essentially the battle mode from Mario Kart, while Omnitag is a sort of capture the flag type mode where you need to grab a plumber's badge and then drive through gates in an arena. Finally, we have Ultimate Elimination, which is the exact same as the Cartoon Eliminator mode in Cartoon Network Racing, And yes, as many of you pointed out, this is also in the Sonic and Sega racing games. Ultimate Elimination is easily the best of these different ways to play, but none of them serve much purpose. You don't even unlock anything from these new modes. The real meat and bones of this game, other than playing multiplayer with friends, is the Galactic Grand Prix mode. There are 8 different Grand Prix to play through, but each one only features 3 tracks. To unlock new Grand Prix, you need to finish a certain rank in the previous one. The majority of these ask you to finish in the top 3, but some of the later ones force you to come second or first. This seems pretty easy at first glance, but boy, I'm telling you that's not the case. There are only 2 difficulty selections in Galactic Racing, easy or hard. Considering this is a kids game, I picked hard initially. Big mistake. To say I was getting my ass handed to me was an understatement. I honestly don't recommend playing this game on anything other than easy. After about 5 minutes, I switched the difficulty down, and instead of finding myself strolling to victory, I found that it was almost just as hard. I was barely even able to complete the first Grand Prix on easy difficulty at first. Now, I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but I'm pretty damn good at Mario Kart and Crash Team Racing. In fact, I 100%ed Crash Team Racing multiple times. I'm even pretty good at Cartoon Network Racing and the Sonic and Sega games, but this, oh boy do I suck. Much of the difficulty does seem to come down to which racer you pick. I started off with Ben at first because he seemed like he would be the Mario or Crash of this game in that he'd be nicely balanced. A good pick for a beginner. Nope, Ben sucks. As far as I can tell, speed is literally the only thing that matters in this game. Just pick one of the fastest racers, otherwise you'll be losing every race. I was having an awful time until I switched to Spider Monkey, who made things a lot better. Despite making things better, the game was still ridiculously hard for a so-called easy mode. I had to scratch and claw for every victory. Nothing is given to you here. Eventually, I ploughed my way through the entirety of the Grand Prix mode in about 2 hours. That's not a whole lot of content, especially when you consider that I had to redo multiple Grand Prix because I failed to finish high enough to progress. If you're somehow good at this game right off the bat, or you know which characters to pick, I could easily see someone beating this game in around 1 hour. Mario Kart doesn't have the deepest single player experience ever, but damn, it doesn't take 2 hours to beat. And unfortunately, the gameplay is not nearly good enough to keep you playing once Grand Prix mode is done. This has got to easily be my least favourite kart racer I have ever played. It seems like your typical standard fare at first. You've got items, speed boosts, drift boosts, and aerial tricks, but just ticking those boxes did not automatically make your game good. Ben 10 Galactic Racing forgot to make its gameplay fun. Driving has zero weight to it. Everything feels floaty and unsatisfying to drive. You feel like a piece of paper drifting around in the wind. One unique thing on offer here is special offensive and defensive powers that each racer has. By drifting a certain amount, you'll fill up a meter that allows you to use a protective attack, which can prevent enemy projectiles from taking you out. On the other hand, doing aerial tricks will fill up your offensive meter, which unleashes a powerful attack that runs through the entire pack. This is a neat little wrinkle in the gameplay, and utilising some strategy surrounding these attacks was the closest this game ever came to being fun. Trying to plan out when the best time to use your powers will be is an extra bit of depth you don't really see in most kart races, so I'll give the developers credit for that inclusion. Outside of that, I can't really compliment the gameplay. I absolutely despised how rubber bandy the game was. As I mentioned, things got a bit easier when I switched over to Spider Monkey, but every race was still an absolute slog. It's almost not even rubber banding here. It's like each racer is glued to one another for the entire duration. I would say 99% of races I participated in during my playthrough played out with the entire pack being in spitting distance of one another. All this leads to is the winner being a complete crapshoot. So many times the result comes down to whoever gets lucky with their item pickup 15 seconds before the finish line. The AI always recovers ridiculously quick from any attacks that come their way, so any effort made to try and create some separation and breathing room is in vain. For you to win races here, you need to not only drive almost flawlessly from start to finish, but also pray to the video game gods that you aren't fucked up by a random projectile right before you can finish. This is not fun. Kart races have always partly been based on luck, but Ben 10 Galactic Racing feels entirely based on luck. I never felt like being skilled at this game truly mattered. And that's a big issue. What's the point in trying to get better if it really doesn't get you anywhere? Why would I try to really learn the tracks and use great strategy with my powers if it's still just all based on luck? Having an entire race consist of 8 people all in tight is just dumb. Nobody ever drops away from the pack, and in the rare cases that an AI racer breaks away from the pack, it's almost impossible to rein them in. I played many races where an AI opponent literally spent the entire thing in first, many times being 5 or more seconds ahead of the next racer. The AI just shakes off every attack, so hitting them with power-ups isn't even a reliable way to try and pull them back in. The tracks are also a massive pain in the ass a lot of the time. While I mentioned that there are basically only 5 unique tracks here, the layout of tracks is also an issue. So many tracks are just littered with hazards. It's like somebody was carrying a box of gimmicks across the track, spilled them everywhere, and then thought, nah, I'm not gonna clean it up. I love a good hazard section every now and then, especially because navigating them successfully can feel really satisfying. However, Galactic Racing does this way too often, to the point where I was begging for just a little patch of clear track for me to actually race on and use my skill. I could imagine playing this game with a party of friends would end in violence. The amount of BS luck-based garbage going on here is through the roof.
You've helped Ben Tennyson save the universe from intergalactic life forms. Now, make them eat his cosmic dust.
Concede my speed.
It's Ben 10 Galactic Racing. Get ready for high-speed, over-the-top action. Pulse-pounding thrills and spills. And bumper-to-bumper battles with your friends. Aliens, start your engines. Ben 10 Galactic Racing. Coming soon.
Ben 10 Galactic Racing is far worse than Cartoon Network Racing. This honestly might be my least favourite Ben 10 game too. I just did not get any enjoyment from my time with this game. It's a chore to play. A kart racer should be an inherently enjoyable experience, but that's not the case here. All I got from Galactic Racing was frustration and stress. Even when I started to get into a groove using Spider Monkey, not once did I ever feel comfortable. I was always expecting some dumb bullshit to hit me at the last second, knocking me all the way down to last. Those moments in Mario Kart are actually funny because they don't happen too often. Here, they happen damn near every race. If any of you are actually good at this game, and I'm sure there are some of you, please let me know. I need to learn your secrets because for me this was a nightmare. Next time I'll be reviewing Generator Rex, Agent of Providence, a show made by the same people behind Ben 10. We've also only got 2 more Ben 10 games left on the schedule until the show is rebooted. I've enjoyed these games for the most part, but God, I'm looking forward to never having to play a Ben 10 game ever again.